I think that allowing for the book being, after all, a parody, something like 1984 could actually happen. This is the direction the world is going in at the present time. In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. The sex instinct will be eradicated. We shall abolish the orgasm. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
What's going on, everyone? It's Nina Infinity. Welcome to my channel on this Thursday. But for a very special show, I have as my guest tonight the very cool, the very awesome, the very, very controversial Chris Sky. Well, Chris Saccoccia, aka Chris Sky, because I know him as Chris Sky, but here he is. Without further ado, what's going on, buddy? Hey.
How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for joining me tonight.
It's my pleasure.
It's really good to see you, and beautiful Toronto in the background. Or is that somewhere
We're
else?
actually in Niagara Falls right now.
Oh, very nice, very nice. I've been there once before in my life. It's a very lovely place. I hope everyone gets to visit at some point in their life. How are you enjoying the day?
It's absolutely fantastic. It couldn't be better. I keep getting more good news virtually every hour with regards to the campaign. So it's fantastic. It's going exactly as I expected. I told everybody the mainstream media was going to ignore me, pretend like I don't exist, pretend like I don't have a chance. I said they weren't going to let me advertise. I said they weren't going to let me in the debates. I said they were going to try to make me look bad any way they could, including trying to arrest me, which they did again for the 27th time. And surprise, surprise, I said within the last week, as soon as we hit a week from the election, I'm going to emerge as a top candidate. They're not going to be able to deny it. And from that, I'm going to have the momentum that's going to snowball and take me right over victory lane without anybody coming close. And sure enough, what did it show? What is the most accurate depiction of election results? It's not the mainstream media fake news polls that they literally make up. It's the betting websites. The betting websites use AI, take everything into account, and they have to be right or they wouldn't be in business. And 3 days ago, I was plus 5,000 on Bet365 or 50 to 1. And as of today, I'm plus 500 or 5 to 1 and only behind Olivia Chow, according to their numbers, and gaining ground virtually every day. So we know that we are a top candidate. We know that we have every tool in the toolbox to win this. And we have a secret weapon that nobody else has. Nobody else has. And you know what that is?
Tell me.
It's the unregistered voter. People like me that have never voted in their life, have never registered to vote. There's over 500,000 eligible but not registered voters in the GTA for this election. And guess what? 99% of them vehemently support me. So all they got to do is get off their ass and get to a voting station, show their ID, get registered on the spot and vote. And I have enough support just from the non-registered voters that I could get enough votes to win this election. Now, add those supporters to all my supporters out of the 1.9 million registered voters, and we have a recipe for a record-setting, history-setting landslide victory. And that's what I'm predicting on Monday. We got a massive ad campaign blitz that we're doing this weekend. We got another 2,000 signs that are going to be deployed. We have 25 total billboards, massive billboards across the GTA, 17 digital ones, including at Dundas Square, iconic Dundas Square, Yonge and Eglinton, and on the Gardner. So look for my face over there. And then we have 8 actual billboards stationary across the city. We are doing a massive amount of robocalls over the next 3 and 4 days, up to 1 million calls with my voice to let everybody know that I am a serious candidate, that they need to vote for me. And finally, today I was just unveiled on the cover of the Jamaican Express, which is the largest ethnic newspaper in Canada, with a full endorsement telling everybody to vote for Chris Saccoccia for mayor. So we have so much momentum going into this final weekend. We have our barbecue on June 24th at 1430 Birchmount Road. And the last barbecue we had at the end of May had around 2,200 total visitors. So we're expecting another massive event like that just leading into the election. Like I said, I expect a big victory on Monday, and they're not going to know what to do. This is their worst nightmare.
It's really crazy because I feel like, I mean, since this whole thing started, that I've heard that you were running for mayor. I mean, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. But like immediately when I went to check the media, obviously nobody was covering you. You weren't even listed in like as a contender or even as running as mayor. They weren't even acknowledging you. And then the next thing I know, all over my feed and all over like anything about you was the fact that you got arrested again. And that's my first question for you is, can you comment a little bit about your arrest? Because the media is constantly trying to paint you in a bad light. So can you clarify what's going on and how do you deal with the constant negative media and press towards you?
Well, first of all, people need to understand that the so-called media, mainstream media, and this includes CBC, CTV, Global, CP24, etc., they all take a plethora of government money, which means the government has complete control over them, which means they are basically an extension of the government. They are not independent media or journalism by any stretch of the imagination. They are nothing but a propaganda enforcement arm of the government, which has been weaponized against the public, not only to manipulate this election, but to manipulate the public virtually every day of the week in general. And there's so much proof of this. Virtually every media station will not talk about me, no matter what I do, unless it's to say that I got arrested. Number one, we know that for a fact. Number two, we also know for a fact that I am not allowed to advertise like any other mayoral candidate. For instance, Gong is everywhere. He is everywhere. I cannot advertise on any media that took any government money. I cannot advertise on the radio. I could not advertise on the TV. I could not advertise on the TTC. I could not advertise on the buses. They will not take my ads anywhere. The only reason I got the billboards is a company called Outfront Media decided that they were going to go against the censorship and allow my business. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have those. I'd be relegated to my signs, which we know they've been taking and smashing.
They were taken down, yeah.
Yes, they have entire teams being paid to take down my signs, burn my signs, even shoot my signs. But we have, yes, which is why we have an extra 2,000 created just for this weekend alone, and a giant team, not just to put them out, but to watch them and put them back up when people try to take them down. We're going to make sure that they cannot silence us. And if that wasn't bad enough, even the biggest fundraising companies all over North America, Canada and the US, they call them dial for dollars companies, and they take a percentage of the money that they raise for your campaign. And they have call lists and they call a whole bunch of people and try to raise your money. Well, guess what? None of them would work for me. It didn't matter if they were based in Canada or the United States. As soon as my name was mentioned, they acknowledged that their biggest customer was the government, and that's as far as the conversation would go. So We have been blacklisted in every way possible, and there's only one reason for that. Because I am the only candidate that represents a true representative of the people. I am not a politician. I am a public servant, and there is a big difference. I am a leader, not a boss, and there is a big difference. They want you to believe that you need to do more of the same that you've done the last 30 to 40 years, which is going to get the same result. A bigger government.
It's the definition of insanity. They want people to do the same thing over and over again and expect the same results. And that is
a different result. They want to expect a different result, but they're going to do the exact same thing. And what's going to happen? Government's going to get bigger. Government's going to spend more. Government's going to take more control over your life. And your family's going to have less financial freedom, less mobility, less freedom in general, and of course, less opportunity for your children. And that's not what we want. That's not what we need. We need a government that's going to run on fiscal responsibility, putting people and families first, taking away the massive waste in the budget so we can balance the budget and actually lower taxes. Create the type of environment that attracts billions of dollars of private investment into our infrastructure, housing, and transit systems so we can not only solve all these problems that we have, but solve them by creating revenue, jobs, and GDP for the city, which will further enable us to increase services and lower taxes. This is the kind of Toronto we need, a Toronto that's going to benefit the peoples and the communities and have money left over for social programs for the people that need it most, and have the money invested in areas that's going to help communities and those people the most. But our government doesn't do that. Our government's plans always involve raising your taxes, appropriating billions of dollars for some cockamamie scheme, and then they just break all their promises, never meet their targets. The money goes missing, and we got nothing to show for it but another 3 years of a wasted administration, more excuses, and more apathy from the public. There's a reason why 70% of the people simply don't vote. Let me say that again. Only 29% of the actual eligible voters voted in the 2022 election. And there's a reason for that. They looked at everybody running and they said, that person does not represent me. That person will not do anything to make my life better. That person will not help my business or my children. So I'm not going to get off the couch and waste my time or energy voting for them. However, now, for the first time in a very long time, the people see me and they know they have a dog in the fight. They know they have someone that will stand up for them, speak out for them, fight for them, and get the results that they would want for themselves. That is a huge motivator. I believe we're going to see massive voter participation. And in fact, I predicted that prior. Well, every analyst said, and even my own analysts on my own team said, they expect only around 350,000 votes for this entire election because it's only a by-election. I said, I pretty much guarantee that we're going to get more votes than we got in the 2022 elections where they have to vote for mayor, deputy mayor, councilors, etc. And we are only voting for the mayor. They said that's crazy. It's unheard of. It's never happened. I said, well, this is a special election and things are going to happen that have never happened before. And what's happened so far? Well, we already have 100 plus candidates. That's never happened before. We already had an extra 300,000 registered voters over the 2022 election from 1.6 to 1.9 million voters. That's never happened before. And now we already got the numbers for early voting in. And guess what? In 2022, there was 110,000 early votes. In 2023, just this small by-election, there was 129,000 votes. So we're already on pace to outpace the votes for the entire 2022 election, and they were electing a whole bunch of different people. So this is showing that there's massive interest in this election, while the TV will try to tell you that there's all apathy, there's no interest. They're lying to you because they don't want you to know that the only interest is being generated by one man. That's me. There's a reason why I'm trending on Twitter every single day. There's a reason why I keep getting real endorsements from actual community members and not elected officials that are part of the problem and part of the narrative. There's a reason why I'm being banned from every media. There's a reason why I was arrested. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that arrest was now the 27th arrest in the last 3 years and the 73rd charge that I'm facing. And for the record, I have now beat 72 of 73 charges, with that one still pending. So what does that tell you? It tells you that in a country like Canada, where we have a 61% conviction rate, a 39% acquittal rate, and about a 1% mistrial rate, I should have like 30 plus convictions. Yet I have 0 convictions. So that shows you that I'm either the luckiest man in the history of mankind, or the government is targeting me illegally, nefariously, and for political purposes, because they don't like what I say, because what I say is the truth, and what I say exposes their nefarious agendas. And there's 2 huge agendas in this election that nobody would be talking about if it wasn't for me. And I'm talking about the 15-minute cities, and I'm talking about SOGI, sexual orientation and gender identity for the kids. Way before I was running for mayor, I was fighting SOGI in Alberta, and I was bringing it to the attention of the people here and the parents here. There is no place for sexualizing children in our schools, in our public institutions, or in our society in general. And we already have laws on the books, 171.1 and 171.2, against child exploitation, to serve these people and arrest these people that are trying to do this to our kids. This is perversion, this is confusion, and it's the sexualization of children, which is highly disgusting, highly illegal, highly immoral, and needs to be stopped at all costs. And the other thing is, the 15-minute cities. And even the Toronto Star did an article that was titled, 15-minute cities will drastically change the way Torontonians live and should be the #1 topic of the mayoral campaign, but it won't be. Well, guess what? After I've done now 4 separate debates, and I've won all 4, including a contest where it was actually voted upon the winner, and I've debated more than 20 mayoral candidates, which to my knowledge is more than any other mayoral candidate, I could say that 15-minute cities are now part of the conversation. And the average person now knows what they are, and the average person now knows how dangerous they are, and the average person is now seeing a pattern of the government creating emergencies to start gaining more and more control over our lives under the excuse of helping the planet. This is absolutely lunacy, and we have to stop this as well, because the 15-minute city is designed for one thing: lower the average person's carbon footprint. And the #1 way they want to do that is limit your mobility by reducing the amount of flights you're allowed to take and reducing the amount of people who own private vehicles. I told everybody that their goal, and it's written in their 2030 agenda, is a 75% reduction in private vehicle traffic. And they call me a conspiracy theorist. Just 3 days ago, the World Economic Forum published an article calling for what? A 75% vehicle reduction. All across the world, billions of vehicles they want off the road. And that is why people do not know this. People all know that in 2020, our government declared a COVID emergency, right?
Yes.
But not so many people know that in 2019, our government declared a climate change emergency. Did you know that?
Yes, I actually did know that because I've been following it for so long. But
Thank you. But the average person does not. And even fewer people know that on May 2022, the government, under the auspice of the climate change emergency, created a new climate change zoning bylaw. This is where the 15-minute cities come in. Under the old zoning bylaws, we had to have a minimum amount of parking. I say we because I've been in development, design, build, and planning for over 20 years in the private sector, but working with the public sector to obtain all my permits, etc. So I dealt with the government on every level: zoning, development, building, environmental, engineering, traffic, garbage, parkland, heritage, you name it, I did it. So I know how the government works intimately. I know how to get around bureaucracy. I know how to get around red tape. So what I can tell you is the government's plans for development are to raise taxes, tell you they're going to build government housing, and in fact, just take your money and then not build the amount of housing that they say. You all know the scam. We're going to take $5 billion. We're going to build 50,000 houses this year. They're going to take the $5 billion. You better believe it. And then after the year's done and they've only built 500 of the 50,000 houses and they spent $4.7 billion and only have a few hundred million left, they're going to throw their hands up and say, oh, I don't know what happened. And now what happened? We just had our taxes raised. We got fleeced for a few more $1 billion, and the government put it all in their pockets. Well, my plan for development is to actually get developers involved with the city and provide them a special incentive to develop way quicker and a way more volume of units in the same amount of time by streamlining the rezoning, redevelopment, and building process. This normally takes years for developers, which translates to paying salaries for years and interest payments for years, which then translate to higher prices and fewer homes built. If you can do this, what I just said, you can save lots of money on each individual home and meet the demand of homes being built. And for this incentive from the government, the developer would have to give back to the community by giving the government a percentage of these units at a large discount. So the government could provide these units to lower income families, single parent families, students, first time home buyers for a rent to own program, so people that cannot afford the ridiculous down payments will still have a chance for home ownership and in the same nice buildings as the more wealthy people. And this is going to bring integration into the communities, which is going to lower crime rates and lower segregation. And it's going to bring up home ownership rates in the city, which is also going to bring up individual equity in the city, which will bring down overall debt in the city and increase hope and increase opportunity. If a young person is paying their $1,500 a month rent with their roommate for a $3,000 a month place, and at the end of the month, they make an extra $500, they're going to go blow that money, because they're not getting anywhere anyway. They're going to go spend it on partying and they're going to waste it on shoes or something. But if they're living in a rent to own and that money that they're spending every month is now going towards their future and their equity, at the end of the month, if they got an extra $500, they're far more likely to either save it or put it towards their equity than just go and blow it. So now you're helping the community multiple ways, and you're creating a future for young people with opportunity and hope, and giving them the same opportunities that we had as young people, which was to become a homeowner and use that equity and pass that equity on to your children. This is the kind of Toronto we need, one that has opportunities for now and for the future generations.
100%. And we definitely, people you and my age, we grew up in a very different Canada. Like, you know, kids had a lot of things to look forward to growing up and everything like that. I do have a couple of questions for you with regards to what you were saying about government contractors and everything like that. So one of my questions is, many voters are unaware that it is the private contractors that are hired by governments for road construction and maintenance. Many of those deals are corrupt, and perfectly fine roads are being ripped up and rebuilt, while other roads crumble and roads deliberately paved poorly, only for the same contractors to return to redo them at the taxpayer's expense. With regards to your platform on removing waste, what methods will you utilize to vet contractors and ensure quality repair, maintenance, and construction of roads and other services in the city?
Absolutely fantastic question, which none of those politicians will address. I would do a massive overhaul of all the, I would do, first of all, do a list of all the ongoing construction projects in the city, because there are far too many, first of all. Secondly, I would consolidate those down significantly and do it in phases. And I would re-tender every single project to multiple private industries that would provide a significant savings, as well as a concrete timeline where they would be paying massive financial penalties for not delivering. And with this approach, with a targeted approach, we would save the city probably 50 to 60% of the cost that they were doing. And we would save massive amounts of traffic by not doing it all at once. And we would get it actually done in an exponentially quicker amount of time. Just like my campaign is far more efficient than all the rest of them, my administration will be far more efficient than all the rest of them. That's what it means to come from a private corporation. We didn't have the ability to just say, we ran out of time, so we're going to extend the contract 6 months. We ran out of money, so we're just going to take another couple billion of public money. No. If we don't perform, if we're not on the ball, if we're not on time, if we don't do the job right, we're done. We're out of there, and we fail.
Yes.
Well, you know what happens to people that fail in the private industry?
They go under.
No, they become politicians.
That is true. Oh my God. Okay, there's another question here. The new Ellington subway line is 6 years behind schedule. What method would you implement to prevent other newer subway lines from experiencing such delays, assuming there's no miraculous archaeological discoveries made during the construction, like finding a dinosaur bone under the Richmond Street or something like that?
Well, yeah, if we start digging and they find like an ancient species that never knew existed, that could probably throw a wrench into things. But we have a plan for the transit, and it's the best plan that anyone has put forth. And it's a plan to attract private investors to front the money to build 2 new subway lines, upgrade and repair the existing infrastructure, including with Wi-Fi and security cameras for a deterrent and safety and usability. And while doing so, we will be able to increase the viability, usability, and affordability of the transit system on par with cities like London and New York. We will have a brand new stream of revenue for the city and the private corporation who's partnering with the city. And we will have a plethora of new jobs and GDP to the city, while saving the city millions and millions of dollars and manpower in the repair and maintenance of the TTC. On top of that, having all these people using the TTC will bring a ton of vehicle traffic off the roads, which will now also decrease emissions and decrease pollution, which will keep the environmentalists happy without negatively impacting the citizens' lives or their wallets. Imagine that. Imagine going green without costing the people money and without trying to impede their lives. Meanwhile, every of the other so-called green agendas want you to take more of your money, want to take more of your freedom, want to have more control of your life, and want to limit your movements, your mobility, even what you eat. This is not by accident. It's by design, because we have all types of environmentally friendly solutions that will actually bring revenue and make your lives better. But why don't they talk about those? Because they're using the environment as an excuse to take your money and control you, just like they did with COVID. Thank you very much.
There's okay, I'm gonna ask you one more question that's YouTube friendly, and then we're gonna switch over to Rumble for the spicy questions. Okay. So my question is, you propose to streamline the housing development of Toronto. So what are the current obstacles that are in place that you would remove to help achieve this goal?
Well, when you want to do a redevelopment, you got to go through the rezoning process, the redevelopment process, which you have to talk to engineering, environmental, parkland, traffic, all the different departments. Then you got to go through the building permit process. And on the way, you're paying all these fees and levies. People don't understand that not only does it take years, and every month of a job, you're paying out that much more salary and you're paying out that much more interest payments. But on top of that, the number one cost for your house that anybody's paying is the government. If you're buying a house for $1 million, I use that as a round number, 30% or $300,000 of that cost is government taxes, fees, and levies, plus the wasted time. So if you can streamline that process by allowing them to do the rezoning, redevelopment, and building permit process significantly faster and significantly cheaper, just by increasing the efficiency of your individual departments and the time it takes for them to go through everything, which I know can be done because I've done it myself. When they tell me it's going to take 6 months to do something, I'll make them do it in 6 weeks. So I'm telling you, it can be done. When you do that, and you save literally years in the development process, those savings now can be passed on to the consumer, and they're going to also be able to build much more volume of units in the same amount of time, which will also decrease the price of units. So you're going to have 2 separate factors that's going to decrease the price of the units significantly, and that's what's also going to enable the government to enact this rent-to-own program, which is going to open up home ownership to a large percentage of the population that will otherwise be perpetual renters.
Very good. Very good. Okay, everybody, we're going to go over on Rumble now. The link is in the pinned tweets as well as in the description. And I know Rumble, Darren has been dropping the link. So everybody go over there now. We're going to go over there right now, and we'll see you there with more questions with Chris Guy. Hang in there.
Are you ready? Are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen,